Welcome to Cultural Capital, our weekly show where we look at the best of London's new and upcoming arts and culture. I'm Nancy Durrant, I'm the Evening Standard Arts Editor. And this week we're at the Royal Opera House, looking ahead to the forthcoming revival of the Magic Flute. We'll be talking to the team at the National Gallery, who've brought some of the collection highlights outdoors in a new exhibition in Trafalgar Square. Thing of the week is a stone tablet of an unusual kind from the Natural History Museum. And I'll be reviewing an adorable new film about enduring teenage female friendship in the face of terrible men and recalcitrant nuns. Now, next month, David McVicker's extraordinary, lavish 2003 production of Mozart's quite silly but spectacular comic opera, The Magic Flute, gets its 10th revival at the Royal Opera House in Covent Garden. We went down to get the lowdown backstage on how they keep this stunning show fresh.
The Magic Flute is one of the most beloved of operas, but not by directors. It is, you wouldn't believe it, but it may be the very hardest opera to put on. So David McVicker's achievement with this production is really something. It's that rarity. A magic flute that is an intelligent and respectful consideration of the material, but also very audience-friendly and funny. It also has wonderful designs by John McFarlane, but very tasteful as well, and not gaudy, not kitsch. It has a lot of darkness and mystery, but also great bursts of light in the darkness. People blaze with light in darkness, and there's lots of reflected light. It's really a thing of beauty. My artistic attack on any production I do depends very much on what the original director's own approach is. I try to be true to it, and I try to direct it the way he or she would have had they been there. David is a director who allows great freedoms to his performing artists. He loves them, and he encourages them to make their own contribution. And so that's a lot of fun for me, because it means that with this new cast, I can do what he does. We keep it fresh with a brand new cast of young singers, actually two casts of wonderful young singers who've never done it before, frankly. It's one of the most delightful scores in opera. I mean, it's very special opera because it is the first opera in our standard repertoire that was written for popular theatre. Try to imagine a pantomime with moments of great philosophical depth. That's something we probably have never seen in this country, but that's sort of what the Magic Flute is.
Dann schmeckt mir trinken und essen, dann könnt ich mit Fürsten mit Messen, des Lebens als Weise mich freuen und wie im Elysium sein.
Audiences can expect a fun evening at the opera with beautiful music that also has food for thought. People who don't particularly like highbrow entertainment will love it because it's one of the least highbrow of operas, but highbrow people also find a lot of interest in it. There's lots of content in there if you look for it.
Magic Flute is at the Royal Opera House from September the 15th to the 7th of October. Right now, though, there's still plenty of summer stuff going on in London, not least of which is the National Gallery's new wheeze of bringing more than 20 full-scale reproductions of the museum's highlights by the likes of Titian, Vermeer, Caravaggio, Gainsborough and Rembrandt outside to Trafalgar Square. We went down to take a look.
This is part of the Inside Out Festival that we're collaborating on with the Westminster City Council and Cass Arts. We've created a mini National Gallery on the north side of Trafalgar Square, And the paintings that have been selected are the nation's favourite, the paintings that people really looked at in their millions during the lockdown period. We were able to calculate exactly how many times people looked at the Arnolfini or the Haywain or the Temeraire, and it turned out that these were the 20 most popular paintings, so we decided to make a mini exhibition out of it. They're all to scale, so you'll be able to see these paintings here and then go into the National Gallery and see the real thing. Part of the reason for doing it is, of course, during lockdown people weren't able to come into the National Gallery, but we did a lot of work online doing talks and tours, and there was all kinds of ways of accessing the collections, but this seemed a really nice way of opening up Trafalgar Square and the relationship between the National Gallery and this sort of centre of London. And so the people that wander past, perhaps not wondering whether we were open or not, would see these paintings, and then it might encourage people to come in and see us for sure. But the other aspect of it, apart from the actual display of these paintings, is the idea of coming on and sketching on the square, so that you can actually come and sketch things, whether it's the paintings themselves or the views around Trafalgar Square. I think it's a really nice thing about looking and doing, which is after all what the National Gallery was set up to be. Certainly anecdotally, people have had a look at some of the paintings here, forgot or didn't realise that we had them at the National Gallery, and then come in and had a look. So for example, in particular the sunflowers, I think people didn't realise, well, a lot of people haven't realised that we actually do have that in our collections. I think the other thing is that just listening to people as I've wandered around, I could hear people talking about their favourite paintings, or the way that it links to their past and their family histories, and how they've often come back, when they were children, came to see these paintings. That's a really nice thing to hear as well. Some of them are, I think, nodding towards people's sense of wanting to be back in contact with their friends and family. So something like the Arnolfini marriage, for example, where it's about love and relationships, but also they're holding hands. So I think that idea of being starved of touch, I think, has perhaps drawn people towards paintings like that. And then something like the Haywain, for example, which is the outdoors, which became such a critical thing for people during the lockdown period. It's not surprising that that should be up there. I think both in terms of it being a famous painting, but I think also about people's reaction to nature during the last 2 years or so. We also have, over and above this physical structure and also the sketching, we also have barcodes on each of the paintings, so you can actually access our website, and there's various events and things that you can do, activities you can do online as well. And I think there is a lot going on in this particular season up till the 2nd of September.
Now, it's Thing of the Week.
So here at the Natural History Museum, we're used to looking at rocks to tell us about the Earth's history. So that could be billions of years old. But this rock that we've got here is actually quite special because it tells us about human history. The rock was formed only 200 years ago, and it tells us about mining in the north of England. As you can see here, there's lots of lines all along the rock. If you look really closely, you can see black lines and white lines going through it. And this rock was actually formed inside a mine in a water trough with settling minerals. When they were not mining, they were white. And when they were mining, they were coloured with the dust from the coal, so they were black. So we call it the Sunday stone because you can see the days and the nights and the Sundays that the workers took off. I mean, I think it's amazing that we normally think about rocks as something that have been formed so many years ago. For a rock to tell us literally about our own history is really unusual. So that's one of the most interesting things about this rock. And I also think it's a really important time to look back at this rock, even though it was formed 200 years ago. Now we're thinking about rolling out, sort of ending our relationship with coal. So it's a really important time to look back on that history and see where we're going in the future.
Anyone who has been a teenage girl will recognise the urges depicted in this week's film, and anyone who is currently parenting one may want to knock down a couple of flaming sambucas before watching it just to calm your nerves.
It was a different time then, before social media and mobile phones changed everything forever. It was 1996.
Some of you are going to Edinburgh for the first time today. You will carry yourselves with grace.
A gleeful adaptation from Alan Warner's 1998 novel, Our Ladies of Perpetual Succour. Our Ladies follows a raucous, riotous 24 hours in the lives of 6 Fort William teenagers in determined search of a shag while on a trip to Edinburgh with their Catholic girls' school choir. If you're of a sensitive disposition, I suggest you cover your ears because these girls are no angels, angelic voices notwithstanding. Their comebacks to the various grim blokes who tried to pull them over the course of the day are worthy of Malcolm Tucker at his sweariest. But what I found touching about this film is the observation of how these young women, awkward bags of hormones as they are, interact. The changing out of school uniform in toilets, the inability to walk in heels properly, the rampant preloading, the protective suspicion of any male idiot who happens to take your pal's fancy. The situations these girls get themselves into with appalling men are utterly hair-raising, but these predators are ridiculous, pathetic in every way, and you always know that this gang is ready to pile on at the first sign of anything untoward, although their notion of untoward is probably a bit skewed, if I'm honest. The other side of this is that this is a group of girls from a not very affluent community, most of whom have very few prospects once they leave school in a few weeks' time, regardless of their intelligence or talent. Pregnancy or a job in Woolworths, it is 1996, are most of their top options, but some of them dream of more. It's a sobering thought, even after a boozy night like this one. But Michael Caton-Jones directs with such cheerfulness that it doesn't linger long. Occasionally that direction suffers from a bit of an identity crisis. Sometimes he seems to want to be Guy Ritchie, other times he's helming a music video, but it's all done with a nod and a wink and a touch of prosaic sparkle that charms completely. Our Ladies is in cinemas today. Take your girlfriends and don't forget the tins of gin. Thanks for watching Cultural Capital. We're taking a couple of weeks holiday, but we'll be back in mid-September. Have a great rest of the summer and we'll see you then.